So, when you pull down the sun visor in your car and you catch your reflection and you instantly think, oh, wow, I look exhausted today.
Oh, yeah, the classic rearview mirror reality check.
Right. But your brain isn't just noticing a lack of sleep there. It's actually scanning your face, almost like a barcode for, high-stakes survival data.
Exactly.
You see heavy eyes and flatter skin, but your brain sees a literal biological distress signal.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, we treat that moment as a purely cosmetic nuisance, right? Like, we assume we just need a stronger coffee.
Or like a really good under-eye concealer.
Right, exactly. But the face is actually this high-resolution physiological readout. I mean, it is constantly broadcasting the state of your sleep quality, your stress levels, your inflammatory load.
Even the stability of your nervous system, right?
Yes, to literally everyone around you.
Which is really the core mission of our deep dive today. We are looking at how modern aesthetics is shifting completely away from these superficial, quick fixes.
It's a massive shift.
Yeah, the conversation is moving towards something far more interesting, which is biological broadcasting. True attractiveness is a reflection of cellular vitality.
It's a really profound pivot from trying to artificially simulate youth to, well, actually making your biology more resilient.
To explore this, we're diving into this fascinating essay by Dr. Chai Ling. She's the founder of SW1 Clinic and the author of a book brilliantly titled Stop Aging Like Milk.
Such a great title.
I know, right? So her essay is called The Biology of Vitality and Regenerative Aesthetics. And we're also looking at some technical clinic data on two of their advanced treatments, which are magnetic muscle sculpting and micropulse RF sculpt.
Yeah, and just to be clear to you listening, this is not a beauty tutorial.
No, definitely not.
We are getting into real human biology, evolutionary signaling, and cutting-edge regenerative medicine here.
So to start, the premise Dr. Lowe establishes is that humans are biologically wired to detect fatigue incredibly rapidly.
Yeah, we actually possess this highly specialized neural network. It's a region called the fusiform face area, and it's entirely dedicated to facial perception.
Which is wild.
Right. Within milliseconds, before you even consciously process a single thought, your brain evaluates the face of another person to determine if they're, healthy, emotionally safe, or physically depleted.
I really want to linger on that for a second because it means our whole obsession with looking refreshed isn't just psychological vanity. I mean, our brains are literally scanning each other for survival cues.
Oh, absolutely. And the data on this mechanism is striking. There's this landmark study by Sunderland and colleagues called Cues of Fatigue that really illustrates this.
Oh, yeah, the sleep deprivation one.
Yes. So they photographed individuals after a normal, healthy night of sleep. Then they kept those exact same individuals awake for 31 hours.
Brutal.
I know, right? And then they photographed them again. And when observers were asked to rate the images, the sleep-deprived versions were consistently rated as less healthy, less attractive, and noticeably sadder.
See, the sadder part is what trips me up. Like, why would an observer perceive a lack of sleep as an emotional state like sadness?
Well, it comes down to the physical shifts in facial geometry. Like, when you're sleep deprived, the tissue physically changes.
How so?
You develop hanging eyelids, swollen eyes, paler skin, and the corners of your mouth actually droop. So from an evolutionary perspective, that geometry mimics the facial signature of sadness and defeat.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, your brain interprets those structural shifts immediately. So chronic exhaustion gives a person this permanent, passive expression of distress.
It sounds so much like the body entering a low-power mode. When my phone hits 10% battery, it automatically dims the screen, shuts off background apps, and drops the processing speed just to survive.
That's a great way to think about it.
It seems like the face is reflecting that same biological throttling. But here's where I get a bit confused. A low battery is temporary, right? If I plug my phone in, or, in human terms, get a solid 8 hours of sleep tonight, the screen brightens back up. So isn't looking tired just a temporary lack of sleep, rather than an actual acceleration of biological aging? Like, why does this temporary state eventually lead to permanent decay?
Well, the mechanism comes down to cellular repair windows. So during deep sleep, specialized cells in your skin called fibroblasts become highly active.
Okay.
And fibroblasts are essentially the cellular factories that produce your structural proteins, so collagen and elastin. When you deprive your body of deep sleep, you severely impair that whole repair process.
So the factories essentially go on strike.
Basically, yeah. But it actually goes beyond just a work stoppage. Poor sleep directly compromises the skin's barrier function, and that leads to something called increased transepidermal water loss.
Which be,
It means moisture literally evaporates out of your tissue at a much higher rate because the lipid barrier isn't being maintained.
yikes.
Plus, your keratinocyte turnover, which is the rate at which you shed dead skin cells and bring fresh ones to the surface, that dramatically slows down.
That explains that dull or sort of collapsed look you see in the mirror after a really rough week. The moisture is literally gone, and the dead cells are just piling up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, imagine compounding that impaired repair cycle with the stress of modern life. This introduces a widely discussed concept known as cortisol face.
Oh, I see that term all over social media.
Yeah, people use it online to describe looking puffy or swollen during stressful periods, but from an endocrinology standpoint, the damage cortisol inflicts on tissue is severe.
Well, cortisol is our primary stress hormone, right? We need it to survive emergencies. So I'm assuming the problem isn't the hormone itself, but just how often we are triggering it?
You hit the nail on the head. In an acute, short-term situation, like sprinting away from danger, cortisol is incredibly protective. It mobilizes glucose for immediate energy.
Right, the fight or flight response.
Exactly. But chronic low-grade stress keeps cortisol elevated constantly, and chronically high cortisol increases the production of enzymes called matrix metalloproteinases, or MMPs.
Okay, matrix metalloproteinases. What do these MMPs actually do to the skin?
Think of MMPs as microscopic scissors. Their evolutionary purpose is to break down damaged tissue so the body can clear it away and rebuild.
Okay, that sounds helpful.
It is, until elevated cortisol forces them into perpetual overdrive. Then these scissors start attacking healthy collagen and elastin. They essentially break down the structural integrity of your face.
Oh, wow. I'm trying to visualize this. It's almost like having a demolition crew inside your body. Like you hire them to tear out a damaged kitchen cabinet, but because the stress signals keep misfiring, the crew just keeps working until they've taken out the load-bearing walls of the house.
That is a highly accurate way to view it. And while those load-bearing walls are being dismantled, the weakened skin barrier allows fluid to accumulate.
Which causes the puffiness.
Yes, that characteristic facial swelling and heaviness. This entire process is a core component of inflammaging, which is that chronic, low-grade, systemic inflammation that actively accelerates biological aging.
Which brings up a huge behavioral factor, I think. Because when we are dealing with all that chronic stress, we rarely reach for, broccoli and grilled salmon. We tend to eat highly processed, sugary comfort food.
Oh, definitely. And that behavioral shift introduces another massive aging mechanism called glycation.
Glycation. How does that work?
Well, when you flood your bloodstream with excess glucose from sugary foods, those sugar molecules physically bind to your structural proteins, the collagen and elastin.
Just sticking right to them.
Yeah, and this binding process forms what are biologically categorized as AGEs, which stands for advanced glycation end products.
Wait, so when you are stressed out and reaching for ultra-processed sugary comfort food, you are hitting your skin with a double whammy of cortisol breakdown and glycation stiffness.
Absolutely. The rogue demolition crew is tearing down the structural walls with MMPs, and at the exact same time, you're pouring sugar onto the remaining beams, baking them into stiff, brittle AGEs that can't support the house anymore.
That sounds disastrous for the skin.
It is. The tissue becomes completely rigid and creepy. That is exactly how temporary stress becomes permanent structural decay. Dr. Lowe phrases this beautifully in her essay. She says, some women age from time, others age from chronic inflammation and stress physiology.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, a surface-level night cream stands absolutely no chance against a diet that is actively crystallizing your collagen.
Not a chance.
So if stress and sugar are fundamentally breaking down our structural integrity, the obvious question is how we actually rebuild it. And the sources suggest the answer is not an anti-aging serum at all.
No, it's not.
It says the most potent biological signal of youth is actually skeletal muscle.
Skeletal muscle is arguably the most underrated beauty metric in modern aesthetics. We have this deeply ingrained cultural misconception, especially regarding female aging, that thinness is the ultimate proxy for youth.
Right. I hear that constantly. I mean, the underlying goal for so many people is simply to take up less space, to be smaller and lighter on the scale.
But biologically, pursuing pure thinness as you age actually accelerates the perception of aging.
Really?
Yeah. Starting around age 30, adults lose anywhere from 3 to 8% of their muscle mass per decade. This condition is called sarcopenia.
And it gets worse over time, I assume.
Much worse. For women, this accelerates dramatically after menopause due to the decline in estrogen, which normally helps protect muscle tissue.
I understand how that affects the body's strength, like being able to lift things. But how does losing muscle in your legs or your core change the way your face looks to that fusiform scanning area of the brain?
Because muscle is not merely a physical motor, it is a structural and endocrine organ. It dictates your metabolic rate, your insulin sensitivity, your posture, and your systemic inflammatory load.
Oh, I see.
So when you lose excessive muscle mass, you don't just look thinner, you look frail. Your posture hunches. You experience facial hollowing because the foundational support system of the entire body is shrinking. The biological broadcast of vitality essentially drops to zero.
You know, it makes me think of pitching a tent. The muscle mass acts like the structural tent poles.
Oh, that's good.
Right. If you start removing the poles, trying to pull the canvas tighter and tighter to make it look smooth isn't going to work.
No, not at all.
The fabric is just going to sag or look strangely distorted because the underlying tension is gone. Trying to look youthful by just getting thinner without maintaining muscle is like letting the air out of a balloon and hoping it somehow stays perfectly round and bouncy.
Exactly. To keep those structural poles intact, you have to trigger muscle synthesis. And this requires resistance training and dietary protein, specifically the amino acid leucine.
Why leucine specifically?
Leucine is critical because it activates the mTOR pathway in your cells. The mTOR pathway acts as the master biological toggle switch that tells your body it has the resources to build new tissue rather than break it down.
And this connects directly to one of the clinical interventions from SW1 Clinic that we're examining, which is magnetic muscle sculpting.
Yes.
Because we aren't just talking about a workout routine here. This is technology designed to forcefully rebuild that lost structure.
Right. The technology relies on functional magnetic stimulation, or FMS, and it is vital to distinguish this from older EMS technology, electrical muscle stimulation, which generally just delivers an electrical current to the surface of the skin.
Oh, the devices that feel like you're being rapidly flicked with a rubber band.
Yeah, exactly those.
They never feel like they're doing much more than irritating the surface.
Well, FMS is fundamentally different because it uses the principle of electromagnetic induction. The device creates rapid changes in magnetic field intensity.
Okay, so how does that help the muscle?
Magnetic fields easily bypass the high electrical resistance of human skin and induce an electrical current deep within the motor neurons themselves.
Wait, really? So you are bypassing the outer barrier completely to communicate directly with the nerve controlling the muscle?
Precisely. The magnetic field causes the deep motor neuron to depolarize, and that leads to a complete supramaximal muscle contraction. Yeah, a supramaximal contraction is one that engages virtually 100% of the muscle fibers, which is practically impossible to achieve through voluntary exercise alone.
That is intense. And the clinic notes point out that because it utilizes magnetic fields, it doesn't even require skin contact.
Right, you stay fully clothed.
Yeah, patients undergo the treatment over their clothes, and it's fast, like 15 to 30 minutes. They use it to target the abdomen, lifting the gluteal muscles, or even tightening the pelvic floor, the Kegel muscles.
Yeah, and it actually originated in medical sports rehabilitation to prevent severe muscle atrophy in injured athletes.
So looking at this through Dr. Lowe's philosophy, utilizing FMS isn't simply an aesthetic shortcut to a firmer abdomen.
Not at all. It is a regenerative strategy to restore the biological broadcast. By rebuilding the deep core and gluteal structure, you change the way the body carries itself. You change the posture, the gait, and the underlying metabolism.
Okay, so we've established the deep structural foundation of the body. Let's move up to the tissue of the face itself. The aesthetic industry is undergoing a massive philosophical correction right now regarding facial treatments.
Oh, a huge one.
Dr. Lowe argues that we are finally moving away from screaming aesthetics.
Yes. For decades, the dominant anti-aging strategy was incredibly simplistic. If a patient lost volume in their cheeks or lips, the solution was to inject a massive amount of synthetic filler to inflate the area back up.
Just pumping it full.
Right. But excessive filler severely distorts facial geometry. It creates heaviness, restricts natural expression, and fundamentally looks unnatural because it does absolutely nothing to improve the cellular health of the skin itself.
Like we said earlier, it's just stuffing the deflated tent with synthetic material without fixing the poles or the canvas.
Exactly.
Dr. Lowe's approach is that good aesthetics should whisper, not scream.
Which brings us to the second technology from SW1, micropulse RF sculpt. So micropulse RF sculpt represents the core of regenerative aesthetics. The objective is not to add external volume, but to force the existing tissue to functionally repair itself.
Okay.
The system utilizes repeated ultra-short pulse microneedling.
Okay, I have to stop you there because I'm struggling to see how stabbing the face with robotic needles and heating it up achieves a whisper result. I mean, if the goal is to reduce inflammation and damage, why are we causing trauma to the skin with electromagnetic energy?
I get why that sounds contradictory, but it comes down to incredible biological precision. The inbuilt robotic system ensures the gold needles penetrate to the exact intended depth in the dermal layer.
So it's not just randomly stabbing.
Right. It avoids unnecessary tearing of the epidermis, and once it's at the target depth, it delivers controlled thermal energy. But the real key here is the ultra-short pulse.
Wait, so we are using a robotic system to deliver electromagnetic energy through gold needles just to target the abnormal vessels. How does the body know to remodel the collagen properly after that?
Well, let's talk about the vessels first. The length of the pulse matters because of a concept called thermal relaxation time.
Okay.
If you apply heat for too long, it bleeds out and damages the surrounding healthy tissue. The ultra-short pulses in this system specifically target abnormal blood vessels, the broken capillaries causing rosacea, melasma, and chronic redness.
Ah,
The pulse heats the targeted vessel so rapidly that it collapses and seals shut, but the energy turns off before it can burn the healthy skin next door.
that makes a lot of sense. That addresses the abnormal vessels.
Yeah.
But how does this rebuild the collagen that the MMP scissors destroyed?
By creating highly precise microscopic zones of thermal coagulation deep in the dermis. The treatment intentionally triggers the body's natural wound healing cascade.
Oh, waking up the factories.
Exactly. Those dormant fibroblasts we discussed earlier recognize the thermal signal, wake up, and start producing fresh, highly resilient collagen and elastin.
So it's tricking the body into healing itself.
Yes, it's called neocollagenesis. You are actively treating acne scars and skin laxity by forcing the tissue to behave functionally younger.
Wow. Now, the sources also mention pairing these physical treatments with cellular messengers, specifically PDRN treatments. PDRN stands for polydeoxyribonucleotide.
Quite a mouthful.
Now, let's translate that into English for anyone who doesn't have a biochemistry degree. What is this actually doing in the skin?
So PDRN consists of specific DNA fragments that act like a highly specialized skeleton key for your cells. The key fits into receptors known as adenosine A2A receptors.
Okay, and what happens when you unlock an A2A receptor?
It functions as a massive distress signal override. When activated, the A2A receptor halts the inflammatory response and initiates profound tissue repair.
So it literally tells the body to stop panicking.
Yes. It promotes angiogenesis, which is the creation of new, healthy blood vessel networks to deliver oxygen, and it significantly accelerates wound healing. You aren't merely filling a wrinkle, you are altering the cellular signaling environment.
Which means every piece of this points back to the biological broadcast. We are fixing the engine instead of placing a piece of tape over the check engine light.
Exactly.
But there is one final piece to this puzzle that the sources highlight. We can rebuild the skeletal muscle with magnetic stimulation. We can repair the dermal tissue with gold microneedles and DNA fragments. Yet Dr. Lowe argues that the most magnetic element of physical attractiveness cannot be injected, pulsed, or simulated by any machine.
Right. She is referring to emotional regulation and nervous system stability.
Nervous system stability functioning as a physical beauty trait.
Oh, without a doubt. Just consider how chronic stress physically manifests in human movement. Your breathing patterns become shallow and trapped in your upper chest.
Yeah, you tense up.
You develop rigid tension in your jaw, your neck, and the microexpressions around your eyes. A dysregulated nervous system creates a highly visible physical signature of distress.
And the fusiform face area in the brain of the person looking at you registers that distress instantly, before you even say hello.
Precisely. Conversely, social perception research consistently demonstrates that confidence, warmth, and an underlying nervous system calmness drastically increase a person's perceived attractiveness.
That's fascinating.
We highly underestimate how deeply our internal state affects our external geometry. As Dr. Lowe states, some women lose youth and gain presence.
I love that quote. It's the difference between a high-definition photograph, which is just aesthetics, and a captivating movie, which is presence and vitality.
That is beautifully put. That holistic understanding is really the essence of true regenerative aesthetics. You cannot untangle beauty from cellular health, and you cannot separate the face from the biology of the whole person.
Right?
Modern interventions are adjuncts to a healthy physiology, not replacements for it.
So for you listening, the ultimate takeaway from this deep dive is that true attractiveness is a biological broadcast of how you actually live. And the downstream effect of your deep sleep cycles, your skeletal muscle mass, your leucine intake, and your ability to regulate stress.
That's
The regenerative tools we explored, functional magnetic stimulation for structural muscle support and micropulse RF sculpt for precise dermal repair, they are remarkable advancements. But their fundamental purpose is to amplify your cellular health, not to artificially mask a broken system.
The objective is to look like a healthier, more vital version of yourself. When the biological systems are functioning optimally, the external broadcast naturally aligns.
Well said. Before we wrap up today, I want to leave you with a final, slightly provocative thought to consider.
Oh, I like these.
If human faces evolved over millions of years to instantly broadcast our internal health, our stress levels, and our vitality to our tribe for the sake of sheer survival, what happens to human connection as regenerative aesthetics become increasingly advanced?
That is a big question.
Right. If we eventually reach a point where we can perfectly hack and mask those biological signals with robotics, thermal pulses, and DNA fragments, will we slowly lose our evolutionary ability to genuinely read each other's true emotional and physical states?
It presents a fascinating paradox for the future. I mean, the better we get at artificially preserving the physical signal, the harder it may become to decipher the truth behind it.
Exactly. Just something to think about the next time you pull down the sun visor, catch your reflection, and wonder what your biology is actually trying to tell you.